When we sit down, it's time for the conversation, and today on the show we're putting into perspective the Reproductive Healthcare Bill of 2019. What are the pros and cons, and what is the way forward with regards to that bill? To help us put some of these matters into perspective, Joy Mudivo, she is the CEO of the East African Center for Law and Justice. She's a council member, Law Society of Kenya, Nairobi branch. Senior Resident Magistrate Government of Kenya, Judiciary from 2003 to 2008. She is a fellow of the International Bridges to Justice. She holds a Master's of Arts in Organizational Leadership Development from International Leadership University and also holds a Bachelor of Law from the University of Nairobi. Our second guest today is Dr. Stephen Kimotho Karanja. He is a practicing consultant gynecologist, and he's also the chairman of the Kenya Catholic Doctors Association, KCDA. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for making time. Joy, let me begin with you because you were present during a presentation to the Health Standing Committee with regards to the Reproductive Healthcare Bill of 2019. I just want to get your perspective on the bill very briefly before we get into the nitty-gritties. What's your general feel of this bill?
Thank you, Ondiro. Thank you for having us on the show. When I had a look at this bill, one of the things that stood out for me is that a lot of what was covered in the bill was actually a regurgitation of what we already have in other statutes. So, for example, provisions about HIV and anti-FGM, these are matters that are very well canvassed already by the laws of the land. There are also provisions that were touching, for example, adolescents, and trying to look at the adolescents as people, a category of the society that can be allowed to make decisions by themselves. And yet, in the Constitution, in the Children's Act, in the Sexual Offences Act, and repeatedly we have definitions that have anybody under the age of 18 considered to be a child and under the protection and care of either their parents or a guardian. And therefore, when I looked at this bill, I realized there's only one or two things that are really being introduced as a new aspect. The rest of it was just a regurgitation of what is there in law.
With regards to family planning, as is in the bill, as currently we have family planning envisioned in our health system. What difference does this bill make to having family planning in the country or access to these services?
The only thing it adds, which is criminal, is bringing the provision of family planning or contraceptives to babies and children without even elementary thought of the consequences. That has never been here. That is what the Keheka Bill is attempting to introduce, contraceptives to children even of 10 years or even younger.
Mm-hmm. Staying with you, also the bill seeks to highlight some of the challenges we face with regards to the health of mothers and children, and that's child mortality and mother mortality rate during birth. Has the bill addressed some of the challenges that lead to high mortality rate in the country?
No, and it can't, because it is premised the wrong way. It cannot deal with maternal mortality because maternal mortality, number one, is already covered in all the principles and programs we have in the country. We do not need, like Mudivo says, you do not need regurgitation. And that's what it is attempting to do. There is nothing new it is introducing, except in trying to support itself. Maternal health is a very, very important thing, is a functioning thing in the country. There is nothing in this bill that can strengthen that. In fact, it brings issue that injures and kills women, maternal sickness and death, rather than maternal health.
Okay. Joy, I want to bring you into the conversation. Now, the bill also says there are families that have been having trouble with conceiving, and with technology and medical procedures that has been made possible. However, it's quite a costly endeavor. If you look at IVF, it's not cheap. Now, the bill stipulates that the national government shall collaborate with county governments in the provision of affordable, accessible, acceptable, and quality assistive reproductive services. From your understanding, what does this mean?
One of the things that this bill attempts to do is introduce a right called the right to assisted reproduction. in my opinion, the Bill of Rights in our Constitution is very elaborate as to the rights that are affordable to all, that are availed to all Kenyans, that are incontrovertible. And if anybody wants to introduce a new right, they need to go and amend the chapter of the Bill of Rights in the Constitution instead of trying to use a bill to do it. But be that as it may, when it comes to assisted reproduction, even in Kenya right now, we not only have specialized clinics that do it, they are regularized and they are regulated by the Ministry of Health and by the dentists and the Medical Practitioners and Dentists Board. And they have their own structure on how it can be done. In my opinion, it is a tragedy when a couple cannot have a child, and it is heartbreaking because as a mother myself, I know what an immense privilege it is to be a mother. And it is a happiness that I would wish on anyone. However, it is still very much within the ambit of private people to decide what they want to do in terms of reproduction. Mm-hmm. Why are we upset by this particular provision? It is because let us learn from those who have passed it before us. It has been used, for example, to have the introduction of 3-parent families, where you are a gay couple and you're in a society that recognizes same-sex relationships, and therefore you cannot biologically have children, which is what our bill says, is for couples who cannot biologically have children. As far as we are concerned, if you want to access assisted reproduction in Kenya right now, it is available, only it is a private enterprise, it is a private endeavor. And why am I saying this? It's because Kenyans access plenty of services medically that are very expensive, but they do it at their own behest because that is where life has taken them. Mm-hmm. We are in a situation where we have several solutions for couples who are trying to have a child and unable to have a biological child, up to and including adoption. In our traditional setups as well, we have assisted reproduction of some sort. You've heard of incidences where women marry other women to have children for them. And so the solutions are already at play in our own nuanced African context.
Now, to the controversial clauses of the bill, and that is under termination of pregnancy. Dr. Karanja, the bill proposes that a pregnancy may be terminated by a trained health professional where, in the opinion of the trained health professional, there is need for emergency treatment. The pregnancy will endanger the health of the mother. Also, there exists a substantial risk that the fetus will suffer from severe physical or mental abnormality that is incompatible with life outside of the womb. Now, this has caused a lot of raging debate. I want to find out, what are your 2 cents with regards to this clause?
I don't think it's a controversial insertion. I think it is something completely crazy and unnecessary.
What makes you say that?
I say that because what actually the statement you have said, the minute you bring the word health, remember it was actually defined, health was defined in 1948 by World Health Organization as complete physical, social, mental well-being. And therefore, if you offer abortion because the health of the mother is in danger, that will include social health. Social health is everything. What in fact they're saying is that it wants to introduce abortion on demand from conception up to the birth of the child. And it is hidden in that very statement that the health of the mother. The health of the mother is an absolute nightmare because you can expand it in any direction. Hey, in this country, with the current constitution, that a baby may be killed, you are already in fact contravening, which says that everybody has the right to life.
I want to move on, but still staying with abortion. Both of you raise very valid concerns with regards to the broad interpretation of the health aspect. However, when you look at the statistics, numbers say that at least 7 abortions, illegal and unsafe abortions, are procured in the country every single day. And these abortions are held by young girls between the age of 10 to 24. Bearing this in mind, don't you think that the bill is trying to solve a problem there by saying, let's have a discussion around abortion, safe abortions and post-abortion care, because it's a reality that we're living with? Doctor?
There are so many thugs in this country who carjack and kill people. There are so many thieves. There are so many road accidents because of poor driving. Should we make this legal so that it is legal now to kill people? The in this country by whoever is killing them, and most of them, studies show over 90% of them by trained people, they kill them illegally. They should be arrested and charged with murder because these are human beings. Our constitution says they are, and this, the fact that they are doing it does not therefore allow anybody to say, because it is being done and we know it is illegal, let us legalize it. I think it's a very weak way of arguing on that angle, that there are many, and it is also true, one thing, that these statistics have been written by the same people who are sponsoring the bill. So which means they have made these estimates and they are not there in science or any research.
Do you agree with that, Terry?
One of the things that I find perplexing when I hear that comparison is the fact that when you study across the globe, the countries where you've got high morbidity, maternal morbidity, are countries where they have legalized abortion. The reason for that is because, one, in my opinion, there is no such thing as a safe abortion, because each abortion procedure results in the death of a child, of the mother as well. And when things go wrong and the mother is also deceased, then the cases of maternal morbidity actually go up. They do not go down. That's one aspect. The other aspect as well that I find curious with the statistics is that when we've got high levels, for example, of teen pregnancy, what it points to, as far as I'm concerned, it points to a failure or adequate parenting, because children need guidance for them to grow. If, for example, you come into a house and you find the lights have been disconnected and the electricity is off, the water has been disconnected, and the landlord is threatening to lock up the house, you will not ask the children how come the rent has not been paid and the light has not been paid. You will directly ask the parents, what is going on? Why is there a problem? Mm-hmm. So in such a situation, what you see with teen pregnancies is actually a failure on the part of parents to be effective at parenting. But rather than an issue and the real problem, we want to turn it into a responsibility for the teens to make decisions on their own behalf, which is, in my opinion, preposterous. Said in our constitution, we are given the responsibility to protect our children from exploitation, from inhumane treatment, from harmful cultural practices. And in this day and age, permissive sexuality without values and without boundaries, is actually an emerging culture. And we have seen in other societies it is a harmful culture. So, for example, do a simple search online and look at the numbers of teen pregnancies in the United Kingdom, for example. They're at a place where they are at its crisis levels. And I think if you look at the United States, the CDC actually stopped updating the number of teen pregnancies because we have, across the globe, it has not been shown that access to contraception or reproductive health services is actually helping teens to not have sexual adventures.
That speaks to the clause that speaks on reproductive health care. So from where you sit, you do not think that allowing or providing access to reproductive health care services and information will not go a long way in helping reduce the number of teenage pregnancies that we're seeing in the country?
In my opinion, what I have seen in other countries as being age-appropriate information is actually a form of hypersexualizing the children. You give them information on the different styles of having sex, different partners to have sex with, and encouragement to experiment with masturbation. Now, because you're a teenager, you're just starting to feel these things. You don't have a firm control on your faculties at that point. It's just all exciting. What ends up now, you have a situation where the children are realized, and by the time they're making these mistakes, is when you want the parent to come in and give consent to give abortion now for the child because they are in trouble. In my opinion, we are Kenyans. We are Africans. We have a means of educating our children on these matters. There is the rites of passage, the aunties, the uncles, the village that brought up the child. These things are already in existence. People are behaving as if Africans have been sitting here, not telling their children anything about the birds and the bees. And I'll give you just one last shot at this. In my opinion, it's because abortion is big business. They stand to make a lot of money by selling abortion services, by selling abortion products. When they are training these health professionals to provide these services, they know that they have a ready market because we are active in our sexual lives in our communities.
Joy, I hear you, but I want to play devil's advocate here for a minute. If you look at the statistics with regards to HIV prevalence among teenagers and the youth in Kenya, the numbers have been skyrocketing. Dr. I want to hear from you. From the kids who are still innocent, we can do something with regards to protecting their innocence, as Joy say, and celebrate life. But there are those who the bus already left the station. Don't you think it's time that as much as these kids are engaging themselves in sexual activities, we began championing for safe sex to reduce the number of, say, HIV infections and STI infections in the country?
These children who are having sex can be helped to stop having it before outside marriage. And it is possible because this is an African attitude. This is part of our cultural education. As long as people don't come from outside and then introduce a bill like this with the issues to say that some of our children are sexually active, let us sexualize them more, or let us protect them from. How do you protect children who are having sex apart from helping them to stop having sex? Are you going to give them contraceptives? That's what they want, because it is a big, big market, it's a multi-billion-dollar market throughout the world. Do we allow this as a country? That is selling the soul of our country. Our children are our tomorrow. They are our future. Every Kenyan, including you and me, have this responsibility. Let us talk more about helping the children who are sexually active to stop doing it. And those who get into bigger trouble, we embrace them, help them, and let it be a lesson to them and to others of what they did, but never be negative with both the child and what comes.
But isn't that exactly maybe what Susan Kihika says, that for the kids who are having sex, we can give them information about sex, about HIV, about STIs, about the repercussions of sex, pregnancy, and then some opting for the route of abortion and some of its repercussions? Isn't that the same thing that the bill is trying to do?
I have read the bill very, very many times. The bill is doing the opposite of that. Susan Kihika is saying in her bill that the children, all children in fact, need to be given as a right to know about it, to be sexualized as a right. Susan Kihika is actually calling for an absolute and total destruction of the morality of our children. This bill actually aims to fight the parents and those people of goodwill who wants to bring up children who are well settled, both mentally and physically, and who understand what our parents knew, that sex outside of marriage was bad for everybody.
Okay.
And still, madam, our people know. You go to places like.
Okay, I've lost Dr. there, but I've also run out of time. We want to conclude this conversation. It's been quite an insightful one, to be honest, getting different views. But Joy, I want to find out from you, from where you see it, from the legal perspective, what needs to be added to this bill to enhance the intention of the bill, which is to improve reproductive health care in the country? Or how would it be panel beat to ensure that it serves its purpose?
In my opinion, this bill is unsalvageable because the provisions that it is trying to, or rather the things that it is trying to change, are issues that must be legislated with full stakeholder participation prior to a bill being tabled. And that's why the recommendation of the East Africa Center for Law and Justice was that this bill needs to be withdrawn. And any other bill that is talking about reproductive health care in Kenya must be a government-sponsored bill. The reason for that is simple. Before the government sponsors a bill, there has been adequate stakeholder participation at the drafting stage, so that we ensure that those of us who have an interest in this matter have our say before a bill is tabled on the floor of the House. Because right now, if I look at the entire bill, as the presentation that I made before the Senate, I have nothing in this bill that I would say, this I can salvage and this I can work with, because everything is problematic. We have to come to a situation where we must understand we are not wishing away our religion, we are not wishing away our culture, we are not wishing away our side, we are not wishing away the objective reason up to this bill, we are not wishing away the rights of parents, we are not wishing away the rights of fathers to make a determination about whether or not their child should be aborted. All these issues must be discussed in a nuanced, balanced fashion, and then a common position around. This bill is very one-sided, is very leftist, and in my opinion, is more towards introducing abortion as a business. Because the question you asked earlier, children know, or rather once teenagers know that pregnancy is off the table, forget about STIs. They've seen people living with HIV for years. They're no longer afraid. Because when I was growing up, HIV was the thing, Philelutaya and the other things. It was a horror story. You did not want HIV. Our kids know people who are born with HIV and have lived on a full and happy life. They do not have the same perceptions. So the biggest thing is this pregnancy. Solve that puzzle for them, and they will be sexually irresponsible. So when you're talking about STIs, they're like, there's a pill for everything. And whatever we don't know, ask Siri. So we have to come to a place where must be government-sponsored bill, so that stakeholder participation is not after the fact, but it is at the drafting stage, because our voice must be heard, and it shall be heard.
Okay. Joy, good insights there. Dr. Ari, your 30 seconds, your parting shot with regards to this bill. Is it unsalvageable, as Joy has said?
The bill was dead on arrival, and it was dead, and they didn't even realize that by using the term reproductive health, the bill died when they conceived thing, not even one that it brings on the table. And for that reason, this bill should be withdrawn completely. And in future, if somebody wants to talk about in this country, something that is positive, not something that is negative. And therefore, again, like Joy says, that is a where government representing the people of Kenya must sit down with all of us, discuss it, and ask ourselves, where are we going? What should we adapt? What should we throw? And especially, as a country, we must all absolutely be vigilant and prevent other countries, other foreign ideologies from being implanted amongst our people, and especially among
Dr. Stephen Kimotho Karanja and Wakili Joy Mdivo, thank you very much for making time. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you for shedding light on some of these issues.
Thank you, Andiro.
Thank you.